India's private sector output surged in the month of June, clocking its fastest growth in 14 months, according to HSBC's Flash India Composite PMI compiled by S&P Global. Now, the composite PMI rose to 61, the highest since April 2024, indicating strong operating conditions in both manufacturing and services. And this marks the 47th straight month the index has stayed above the 50 mark, which separates growth from contraction. Employment rose across sectors, with manufacturing leading in job creation. Services hiring saw a slight dip from May levels earlier. Meanwhile, India's agricultural and processed food exports have seen a healthy start in financial year 2026, rising over 8% year-on-year to $4.16 billion in April and May. And the jump is driven by robust rice, buffalo meat, and fruit and vegetables export. Rice exports alone, both basmati and non-basmati, hit $2.4 billion after a record performance of over $12 billion just last year. And buffalo meat, dairy and poultry exports rose 16% to $0.81 billion, with India now retaining its spot as the world's second largest buffalo meat exporter. Fruit and vegetable exports also grew by 16%, touching $0.69 billion, thanks to rising global demand for bananas, mangoes, juices, and seeds. And India's supply chain reforms are pushing this momentum, with total financial year 2025 exports clocking $25.14 billion, a 12% jump, accounting for over half of India's agri-exports. And India has topped the Asia-Pacific region in office leasing sentiment, as per CBRE's latest market sentiment survey. Now, the country's office market sentiment index, it crossed 70%. CBRE pegs 50% as neutral sentiment. Anything above signals confidence. India was the only market with all sectors, office, retail, and industrial, above the 50% mark, reflecting consistent growth. Gross office leasing in Q1 2025 rose 5% year-on-year, hitting 18 million square feet across 9 cities. Bengaluru, Hyderabad, the Delhi NCR, and Mumbai led the demand, with Tier 2 cities gaining momentum as well. Tech and global capability centers, the GCCs, are the key drivers here. Renewables still dominate, but India's expansion appetite makes it a standout moment. And India Inc.'s confidence in the goods and service tax, the GST, and the goods and service tax regime has hit 85% in 2025, according to a Deloitte survey, marking the 4th straight year of rising positivity. That's a 26 percentage point jump since the year 2022, when confidence stood at 59% only. The findings come as GST completed 8 years on the 9th of June. Firms cited simplified tax processes, seamless input tax credit, and better tech-enabled compliance as major positives. The survey also noted key areas needing attention, especially rate rationalization, faster refund mechanisms, and standardization across the states. In short, businesses are adapting but want GST 2.0 with deeper reforms and smoother execution. Well, Indian Railways has revamped its clean train station scheme to boost onboard cleanliness with minimal operational disruption. The updated scheme will be implemented at 20 stations across 8 railway zones, covering 683 trains with halts of 10 minutes or more. Each cleaning team will handle 4 toilets and 2 adjoining coaches. Staff will use battery-operated backpack jet cleaners, portable vacuum cleaners, ergonomic brushes, and absorbent mops. The entire cleaning process, including water refilling, must be completed within 10 minutes. And under Atmanirbhar Bharat, India is rapidly advancing towards self-reliance in defense production. Once dependent on imports from Russia, the United States, and France, India is now building its own tanks, missiles, fighter jets, artillery, and submarines, you name it. The Tejas fighter jet is India's homegrown fighter aircraft. The Arjun tank, produced in Awadhi, Tamil Nadu, is deemed superior to Pakistani tanks in combat. Dhanush cannon, developed in Jabalpur, dubbed the indigenous Bofors. And in Hyderabad, the DRDO and Bharat Dynamics Limited are jointly producing Akash and the Nag missiles. India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, was built in Kochi. INS Arihant, Our nuclear submarine was built with Indian tech at Visakhapatnam. The INSAS rifles, AK-203 and carbines made in Chandigarh and Kanpur are now being exported elsewhere. And in line with the government's self-reliance push that we just showed you as well, the Defense Research and Development Organization has offered 28 existing weapon systems that it designed and developed for emergency procurement by the armed forces. The development comes at a time when the government has already approved emergency arms procurement powers for the forces. And to make the procurement smooth for the Army, the Indian Air Force and the Navy, the DRDO, has given them a list of vendors and products, weapons that they can buy. The forces have been given the option to order from a list of 28 different pieces of equipment, including 14 for the Army, 8 for the Navy, and 6 for the Indian Air Force. India's Ministry of Health has received the 2025 Bloomberg Philanthropies Award for Global Tobacco Control for prioritizing tobacco cessation efforts. And the award was presented under the O category, Offer Help to Quit, at the World Conference on Tobacco Control in Dublin, Ireland. India's National Tobacco Control Cell was honored for expanding services like toll-free quit lines, mobile cessation programs, and free support at hospitals and clinics. Services now available at over 675 district hospitals, 607 NCD clinics, and 4 major national quit lines in operation. Prime Minister Modi visited Cyprus on the 15th and the 16th of June en route to the G7 summit in Canada, marking his first foreign trip post-Operation Sindoor. And with Cyprus as a key Mediterranean hub, the visit aimed to strengthen ties on trade, innovation, security, tourism, and connectivity. Prime Minister Modi and a Cypriot president called Cyprus a gateway to Europe and addressed the India-Cyprus CEO Forum, launch of India-Greece-Cyprus Business Council, memorandums of understandings on financial ties, and potential UPI adoption mark the deepening economic ties between Cyprus and India. A joint declaration on counter-terrorism condemned the Pahalgam terror attack, calling for dismantling terror infrastructure.